So we're doing testimonies from outreach, and I'm first up. And we're just going to start with the first question. So the first question was, what was your favorite part of outreach? So I think my favorite part of outreach was the first few days. We got to hang out a lot. What? Is something wrong, Doso? No? Okay. We got to hang out a lot with a lot of kids from the Pure Rocks by Pastor Eddie's house. And it was a really great time. I bonded a lot with one little girl who was very young, and then another girl who was 20, and I got to just hang out with them a lot and love on them, and that was really just a blessed time. Even though I didn't understand everything they necessarily were saying, it was okay because I think the love of the Lord just was able to go further than that. So that was definitely my favorite part. I really enjoyed seeing Bacolod too, but I was sick, so I didn't really get to experience much of that. But it's such a wonderful ministry that they have there too. That leads into what was the most challenging part of outreach. So outreach, I was a little bit sick before outreach, but I went into it and I just kept going. And then Wednesday, I couldn't keep going. It wasn't good. I got really sick, and I had to go to the doctors and get some medicine, and then Lucy started getting sick too. But we're doing a lot better now, so praise God. So that was challenging, watching everyone get to hang out with people and just being sick. But I think the Lord used that to kind of at least slow me down and help me realign me with himself. I prayed a lot during that time when I was awake. And then what did I learn about myself? I think the Lord was just definitely showing me that it's okay to take break. I definitely learned that it's okay to take a break sometime and to rest, and that prayer can be powerful too, which was really cool. And it was just a sweet blessing being able to be around all those kids there too. That, along with learning, like I said before, that love goes beyond like the language, I guess. And then what did I learn about God? God is still good. Even when we're sick, even when there's kids on top of you 18 hours a day, and you don't know where you can go, and they're holding on to you tight, and you're trying to go to the bathroom, and they won't let you go because there's 13 of them on top of you holding on to you tightly. The Lord still works, and God is so good. He showed me his love through even especially Ate Dinah and just everyone there who helped me and Elizabeth when we were sick. It was just a really good time. And then I want to end with a verse. This verse actually has been coming up with me a lot. It's in Psalms 138:8. It says, "The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Your steadfast love, O Lord, endures forever. Do not forsake the work of my hands." He doesn't forsake the work of our hands, and even when we're sick and we're praying, he doesn't forsake the prayers we have. So just keep praying and keep doing what you can unto the Lord, and be encouraged with that. I was really encouraged with all of you guys during outreach, and I'm so thankful for all of you. And that's all I have to say about outreach.
My favorite part of outreach, I had so many favorite parts. The highlights, it was such a good time. It was exhausting, but I think that the Lord really used it. And even in my own heart, I saw just like the giftings that I knew that the Lord was developing, but I got to see it actually like come into place. And it was so cool to see. But my very favorite part was in Cebu-Bacolod with the children's home. Seeing Jesus in those children was actually really humbling to me, because I was like, I'm supposed to be here ministering to them, and they ministered to my heart so much. Like, I had heard about their past from I don't know her name, Nana. Okay, I had heard about their past, and they've been through so much more than I've ever been through or ever could imagine. But seeing the way that they were so respectful and the love that they had for each other and for us as like strangers was absolutely insane. Like, and I know it's like a reflection of the way that the people around them have loved them there, but it was such like a redemption story that I saw, and it broke my heart, and it made me like realize I want to have an impact. And those two people have gone and had such an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and it was so encouraging. And so that was my favorite part of outreach. What did the Lord teach me? A lot. Probably that I need to rely more on Him, because I could love people, and I love kids, and that's just very like natural, but I get tired. And so the Lord really taught me, like, this is not you doing it, this is for my glory, so do it through me. Do it through my power. I think that's all the questions that I want to answer. What new thing did I learn about myself? I just need the Lord a lot, basically. But it was so good. I loved outreach. I loved the kids. It was so good. Oh, and my favorite part was probably also the kitchen. I loved working in the kitchen. Okay, Amy, you're up next.
My favorite part, I said spending time with the kids, and seeing God's love in the school. Like Ian was saying, like those kids are like so loving and so welcoming, and they're all on board for everything. Like you're like, let's do this. Like, okay, let's do it. And they're like so ready for it. And it was really sweet. And like the kitchen staff there was so sweet, because there was one day and we were gonna help with the games, and then they were like, oh, the kids are tired, we're just gonna go do basketball. And I was like, well, do you need my help? They're like, you can if you want. And I was like, I'm gonna go up in the kitchen. So I was able to go into the kitchen and like get to talk with some of them, and they were it was just really lovely. And I was able to help there. And then doing like the kids ministry dances was so much fun. The kids were so sweet, and it just made me very happy. And then handing out the movie flyers was so much fun, because we like go up in this neighborhood and I'm like, the neighborhood's done. And then no, it just like keeps going. Like you just like go between these two houses, and then there's like 10 more houses. It was crazy. And the most challenging part, I think, was I felt like there was more to do that I couldn't do, and like none of us could do, but it was frustrating to be like, I want to do more, and I wasn't able to. Yeah, there was a couple days I was really tired, and I felt like I didn't help much, but you guys were all very nice and helped me through that. What new thing did I learn about myself? That I can push myself harder, especially when the Lord is with me. If it's just me, no. But with the Lord, it's like I'm excited to go do more. And so that was really fun. And the last one, what did you learn about God? That God will provide, can you still hear me? God will provide everything I need. Because He provided so much. He provided patience and energy and patience from other people. So that was really good. Yeah, and that so many people are very kind and very loving and giving. And it was cool to see how, I don't know, just like how God works through people was really cool. So, yeah. It's good to see everybody again. Okay, my favorite part of outreach, there was so much. I loved getting to know all the kids and holding all the babies that I could. There was one part, though, in particular, where I was able to pray for one lady, and she had a struggle with her ministry that she was trying to start. And I was able to pray for her and encourage her in her women's ministry and just get to know her. And it was a really sweet time, because I felt my purpose was there. I'm able to encourage this woman in her ministry that she really needed that encouragement. What was really challenging for me, obviously, was when I got sick. First, it started with my ankle. I don't know how in the world I hurt my ankle. I don't know how I hurt my ankle, but I couldn't walk on it. It hurt to move it, so I also stay off of my feet for a while. And so I was frustrated. I was like, Lord, I want to serve, and I'm hurt, and I can't do anything. But not just that, but also when I got sick, it was really hard because I wanted to serve. I wanted to do more. I had a plan of, Lord, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna serve you this way. But it was like, it wasn't taken from me, but it felt like it. So it was really challenging for me to be able to have that confidence. But something I learned about myself was that, kind of like what Eliza said, it's okay to rest. It's okay to rest, especially resting in the Lord. I found that there was a lot of rest that I was lacking physically as well as spiritually. And so I think this time of me being sick with Eliza was a time that I was able to renew my strength in the Lord, and it was good for me. And what I learned about God, this is so cool. We were in Bacolod, and this was the hardest day for me because I loved it there. I loved it so much there. Even though I was sick and I wasn't feeling well, that place felt like home for me. And I actually started crying. I was in the room alone, and I started crying out to God, and I was like, Lord, why do I have to miss out on this VBS? I wanted to do this really bad. And even like I get tears when I think about this. But he was very clear to me, and he spoke to me through the verse Exodus 14, 13 through 14, and Moses said to the people, fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. And that was my verse that I held on to for that week, was that even though I was going through that small thing, it seemed big, but because Jesus was with me and with me the whole time, I didn't have any reason to fear. And so my confidence was rebuilt again. And now I'm better. And praise the Lord that I'm better. But that's what I learned. Thank you for listening.
So, I'll just answer the 4 questions and about the trip. So first was, what was my favorite part about the outreach? I think doing dishes with everyone. That was so much fun. And there was a time where our towels were wet and we couldn't really dry a pan, so I'm like, oh, why not air dry it? So I'm like, this. And Allie reached back, she was trying to give us the cover, I reached back and I was waving and I smacked it out of her hand with the pan, and it hit the ceiling, hit the table twice or something, and then bounced off Elijah's hand 2 times and hit the table, then Paul somehow caught it. So that was a lot of fun, and also just being able to exercise the gift of serving. So that was my favorite part. And one thing that was most challenging was, I think, like especially at the high school, we would get a lot of attention, and that was tough. And I think even just throughout the ministry, even the outreaches in the neighborhoods, just a lot of attention and being treated, I think, a little higher than I ought to be, or we should. And that was challenging. I think some good came out of it was just like growing and like denying my flesh and saying no to like to the temptation to like puff up my ego or be prideful. And also one thing that I learned about myself was I really struggle with being consistent with devos. When I move to different places or I get a different schedule. So I learned that I really struggle with being consistent and doing devos when different settings and stuff like that. So I think through that the Lord was teaching me to just be prepared when I go to like a different different setting, different schedule, to be ready to get in the Word no matter what, because it's really easy to not. So also a couple things that the Lord was showing me about himself was his faithfulness to answer prayer. And I think like evangelism, like praying before evangelism, and in certain areas, like just praying for one another and seeing how he answers, and it's awesome. And his faithfulness, his faithfulness in that, and also his grace. I think really God was showing me a lot about his grace. I think one thing was through evangelism. Like, so many people we were talking to were Catholic, and just having to explain God's grace to them, like over and over again, and it really showed me more of his grace in a deeper way. So that's what God showed me on this trip.
Is it on? Yeah. Yes. Okay. I would say my favorite part of the outreach was, I think, just being with the people. Even though it was hard, all of the kids were just so sweet. And like, okay, well, as sweet as they could be. They were like kids, and they were a little crazy. Like they said, they were jumping on you, and they didn't really know what a boundary was. But I think it'd been so long. I don't know, like, I felt so loved, and in a way, I almost felt loved by God through the kids, even though we were there to love them. And so that was a really sweet time for me, even in Bacolod, at that orphanage or the family place. All those kids, they just loved so purely, and you could see how God had changed their life. And so that was just my favorite part, was just the people. The most challenging part kind of came with that. I noticed that in the outreach, it kind of felt like you were on 24/7. And I remember there was one day we had a full day, and then we went to eat dinner at Jollibee's, and then we talked to this random lady. It was like Elizabeth and I met this random lady, and I remember thinking that moment, like, God, I'm so tired. Like, I do not want to be talking to this lady right now because I'm exhausted, and like she just kept talking. But I realized that's not right to give a time limit for when you're ministering and when you're serving and what God can do when you're talking to people. And so I noticed that kind of led into, what did I learn about myself? I realized that I'm very weak. Like, I can't do it on my own. But it was really cool to notice every day how God still gave me the joy and the strength. It's like, you get 5 hours of sleep day after day after day, and you're like, there's no way it should be possible to still minister, still do all these things, and yet it was with God's help, and so that was so cool. And one of the things I learned about God throughout the week was just that He's so good. Like, He's so faithful. When we were evangelizing one of the days, it was Elijah, Pastor Benjamin, and I, and we did not know anything. We had no translator because we were gone to do some tasks, and so we were oh, we'll see how it goes, we're cooked kind of thing. But God was so good, and every group that we talked to, most of the groups, God had provided someone who knew just a little bit enough of English to translate to the other people in that group. And he was so good, and that was probably one of my favorite parts, was just evangelizing. I was very encouraged. So yeah, that's what I learned, and then I'm gonna welcome up Taya.
I actually loved this trip a lot. One of my favorite parts was actually just the kids, like everyone said. There was this one little boy that I don't even know his name because he knew absolutely no English. I knew where he lived because that's what I know how to ask in Visaya. And that was it. I didn't know his name. I don't know how old he was. I don't know anything about his parents or anything. And so, but the fact that we were able to just sit and love on each other the 3 days that we were there with that language barrier was probably one of the greatest moments that I've ever experienced, because we would search for each other when we would come into a crowd, and we just would instantly go to each other when we would get there. And with that, one of the most challenging things for me was probably the language barrier, but that also goes back to another one of my favorite parts. While we were evangelizing, I came to a group of ladies who spoke no English, none. And I could not explain anything other than teach me how to make this. And so they sat down and showed me how to make a little rice basket, and through that it was really cool to just connect with them through that simple task. Don't ask me how to make it because I don't know, but I did it. And so that was just like a cool connection that we were able to have, and that was one of my favorite things. Another challenging part was the Filipino time. I am a very I'm a very timely person. So that was probably a struggle for me, but it also came through that, like, that is something that the Lord taught me this week, was it's okay. Things don't have to go as on time. You have to trust me. It's gonna be okay. Just trust me and everything will be fine. So that was one thing that I learned about God. And yeah, that was my week. I don't know who's next.
Outreach was absolutely amazing. My favorite part was definitely just being able to spend time with the kids, but specifically the first night that we showed the movie, I was holding one little boy, and then another little boy would come over, and then by halfway through the movie I had 7 kids laying on my leg. And so it was just like, even just in the silence of them just being there, like, I was just able to feel their love towards me, but also just being able to love on them. And there was just this one little boy, and he was stuck to me like glue, and it was just the sweetest thing ever. And I was just carrying him around, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, like, you're going to be such a good mom. Like, he looks like he could be your son. And it was so sweet just to be able to love on them. Even like Tay was saying with the language barrier, you could still just feel their love towards you, but also know that they were feeling your love. But then also the gifts that the kids from Bacolod gave us. It was so sweet and precious, and saying goodbye to them was so hard, but that was definitely one of my favorite things as well. The most challenging, there wasn't much because it was all amazing. So for me, honestly, saying goodbye was the hardest thing, the most challenging, just to all of the kids. And learning about myself, I would say it was more of the Lord just confirming some of the desires and gifts that he's been showing to me, specifically since being here, like the gift of teaching. I was teaching at the VBS, and it went really smoothly and things like that. And so he's just continually confirming those giftings, even though sometimes I want to deny them. And also just the desire that I want to be in ministry with kids in the future. And then just learning about him, I would say just he uses the broken in mighty ways. Just seeing those kids in Bacolod, and just being able to relate to them to a certain extent. But just seeing the love and joy that they still had despite everything that they had gone through. And then also just him being faithful. Beforehand, I had prayed. Most of you know I have a lot of trouble with my knees, and so I was like, we're going to be doing a lot of walking. There's going to be a lot of activities, and so I was just like, Lord, give me the strength, like no pain this week, and he did. So.
All right. Hi, guys. So my favorite part of the outreach was actually, like most people said, the connections with the kids. Just completely changed my heart in a lot of ways. Just the fact that, they, even with the language barrier and even with the things that, not being able to understand each other and not being able to fully be able to conversate with them, just being present with them and just being there with them, even teaching them the little games like appear, disappear, like those are just really, really sweet connections that I made. And that was definitely just my favorite part of the outreach, was just getting to connect with the kids individually. And the Lord actually did give me an opportunity to connect with one of the girls at Bacolod. She was deaf, and I actually know sign language, and so I was able to sign with her, and she just was really happy about that, and just was a really sweet connection being able to do that. So there was an ability to talk with her about Jesus and about the Lord and how much he loves her, and that was really cool. I think that, again, the most challenging thing was saying goodbye to all the kids. That was definitely the most difficult thing for me, because you don't even realize how deep of a connection you've made with them until it's over, and you don't even realize how much you wish you could do more for those kids until you're gone, and so that was definitely difficult for me, just having to say goodbye to those children and having to just say, you know what, God, they're in your hands now. You take care of them, and you're there for them, Father God. Even if and I praise God, I got to be a part of this small piece of their life. So that was definitely challenging. One thing I learned about myself was just keeping my eyes fixated on eternal things as opposed to temporary things. Was kind of the biggest thing that God was teaching me. I lost my phone like literally the day before, the day before, and so could not find it, absolutely gone. And so I was just struggling with that because I was like, God, like, this is not a good time. Like, I want to connect with my family while I'm here in Cebu and connect with everybody back home. And he was just like, just trust me. And midway through, the Lord, I received notice that they found my phone, which was a praise and a miracle. No way anybody could have found it without the Lord. But it also taught me at the same time to be more reliant on Him as opposed to, the trivial things of life, the temporary things that we all have, which are blessings anyways. They're not guarantees. And then what I learned about God is He loves and takes care of His children, and He was taking care of each and every one of us, even through the exhaustion, even through the days where we were feeling really tired, and just the mornings that were really difficult. He was teaching me, even through pushing through to my limits, how to rely on His strength, that He provided me the strength to continue going forward, even when it was hard. So God was just teaching me a lot during that week. It was pretty awesome. It was epic. I had a great time, and it was great. So that's all I have to share, but I want to invite Shiloh up next.
Man, the outreach was so amazing for me. It was like probably the highlight of all of the Philippines, which was the highlight of almost any trip I've ever been on. So amazing. My favorite part probably was so many great parts. I loved the movie nights, setting up for those with Doso and everyone, and just carrying stuff. I always loved just setting up and facilitating things like that, and then seeing everything fall apart at the last minute, and then still come back together in time for it to all work. Dosa did a lot on that side, but probably my favorite part though was just the 2 days at the home there in Bacolod. Some of you guys know more of my story, but I've had in my younger growing up years, a lot of trauma and abuse and broken households, and I know the pain that can cause in a heart, and seeing the true healing that's in every one of those kids' faces, and they just exude the joy of the Lord is something I've experienced and healed from. Seeing that in their lives just warmed my heart more than I ever thought it could. Especially one little boy, John, just was my little buddy. He just grabbed me from day one and stayed with me every minute of the day. That was my favorite part for sure. Saying goodbye was hard. But also, just getting to cook with people out by the fires, on the stoves, and just such a tiny little room there in Pastor Eddie's for 30 of us to pack in, and yet everyone worked well together, and that was great. It was definitely challenging sometimes, just being exhausted and tired, and sleep at 12, up at 5, and kids and carrying and all the different things throughout the day. But just seeing how faithful God is in our prayers, and how faithful God is to provide when we're tired, when we are just, you're talking to people all day, and yet God is just so faithful to provide, especially in prayer. Like in our evangelism time, my group was mostly just passing out flyers for the movie night, but we had a couple really good conversations, getting to sit down with whole families in their houses and just lay out the gospel and just share with people. Even one day just getting a group of like 15 random kids together and just sharing the 5-color gospel with bracelets, and then they had questions, and just seeing God's faithfulness in prayer. But overall, it was just such a great outreach, and great getting to grow more with all you guys too. So that's what I've got. Elijah.
The favorite part for me on the outreach was definitely going to Bacolod with the kids, and being the game master was up there for me for sure. Though that title was about to be stripped by anonymous people, one's in the back sitting there, but it was really, really good to get to play games with the kids, and I could just totally see their heart, and really like no matter, even if some of the kids couldn't participate, it was just so cool to see how, especially the leaders worked with them and how good that organization is, and just building the kids up, even if they can't do every single thing, they all were a part of it and together as one. It was amazing. And then also just the little girls are so sweet. I remember sitting down for breakfast and I got pop quizzed every day on their favorite colors and their names again. It was like 6 or 7 girls, and so that was amazing. And yeah, I just had so much appreciation for that organization and everything they do, and it was great to be a part of. And I think the most challenging part was definitely the low sleep schedules. Going through and evangelizing was kind of part of that as well. I know Julia and Pastor Benjamin know. No translator or anything was pretty rough. The Holy Spirit was our translator. So it was really good. I did have like some struggles. I knew I was like, I've done some evangelizing before. I just haven't done like this much before, and THP was very helpful and kind of, especially Julia, kind of showing me what the do's and don'ts are. But I went into it with a lot of ambition, like, oh, I got this, and the Lord just totally showed me that like that's not really my strength. And so it was still great to do, and I actually learned a lot, and it was really good to just get to see God work through that as well, which is kind of what I learned about God is that even if I'm failing and I don't feel like I'm getting the message across in the right way, the Lord's gonna like plant those seeds where they need to be planted, and I can try my best and do everything I can, but if I can somehow point them to the Word and they can turn back on that, that's going to be something that they can stick with for the rest of their life, not what I could do to give them a good speech or anything. And so, and then I also, kind of learned about myself too, the not great at evangelizing. And then also learned too that the power of prayer can be so big when it comes to, kind of learned that about myself, but for all of us too, is like, if we're leaving those kids, we can still be praying for them constantly, and they can have just the Lord backing them up, and the Lord being the one to, if we can point them to Him, it's going to be all the better. So that was what I learned, and I think that's it.